Check the description for the following discount codes. Before we get into the video, don't forget Sim Racing Studios Power Win giveaway competition is running right now. Details in the description. I'm not usually one for first impression videos because I think you can say everything you need to say in a full review. But a few people in the comments said, Carl, looking forward to your first impressions video for this Fanatec DD1. And I thought, well, okay, do you know what? Let's do a first impressions video. Because I have got some first impressions. And before those first impressions sort of disappear and settle down into what will be a final impression and a final review, I may as well share those first impressions with you. So you can see I've got the Fanatec DD1. It should be in shot. Yes, you can see it there. And the universal hub attached to it, and then the Sparco 215 rim attached to it. So first impressions from the service from Digital Motorsport, where I bought them from in Ireland, is absolutely amazing. I ordered this on a Saturday afternoon and it arrived the Monday morning, which is just ridiculous. That's like next working day. And yes, I paid an extra 20 notes for express shipping. It was DHL, not UPS, which I know is what Fanatec use if you buy it from their European shop, which is Germany, I believe. So literally next working day, boom, with me, landed here at my house, which is amazing. You know, they even said it would be the 11th, which I think would have been the Thursday, and it rolled up on the Monday. So impressions of Digital Motorsport, bang on, really, really quick service. The website was easy to understand. The pricing clearly stated it was without VAT, so 955 or whatever it was for the wheelbase. You know, you knew straight away it was without VAT. You can roughly add to 20% on, and you know what you're going to be paying. So it was a good price. It was really fast shipping. Can't complain about Digital Motorsports whatsoever. In fact, I probably should have contacted them before I bought one and made the video and said I'm going to do a video, any chance of a discount. But a bit late now. I've already bought it and I've already made the videos. But yeah, that's where I bought it from. Anyway, first impressions of the DD1 itself. The box it came in, which is actually not in the room now, the packaging is really nice. For a cardboard box, there's actually two plastic locks, one either side, that you need to slide open, unlock, before it will let you lift the lid, so to speak. So the presentation was really nice, and the weight of the box was hefty. Once I got the wheelbase out, carrying on that theme of heft, this wheelbase feels like a piece of industrial equipment. It makes my Thrustmaster and my Logitech and even the belt-driven Fanatec wheelbases, they look and feel like toys by comparison to this. You know, obviously weight contributes a lot to that industrial feel, but also the fit and finish and the appearance of it, the way it looks, the materials, the build quality is of a really high standard compared to the belt-driven counterparts from Fanatec, Thrustmaster and Logitech. So straight away, you don't feel quite so bad about spending a whole load of money, because obviously by the time you get this up and running with a wheel and what have you, it's at least double what you would pay for a high-end belt-driven wheelbase and wheel. So it really needs to be good for that amount of extra money. So build quality, weight, that industrial nature, the packaging, the shipping, all top-notch experience, no complaints whatsoever. I love the little digital screen on the top of the wheel mount, of the wheel base as well. I think it's just a nice touch. Who doesn't want another LCD screen, you know, on their sim rig? If they can get one, we want one. So that's nice. Obviously, it shows everything from temperatures to torque and whatever other settings you can play around with. I have to use Fanner Labs to control that because I have a real steering wheel here, so it doesn't have any buttons on it. And I did that intentionally. I didn't want did I call this a universal hub earlier? I think I did. The universal hub is actually the one with all the buttons, isn't it? I've forgotten what this one's called now. Or is this a universal hub? I can't remember. Anyway, this is the quick release hub designed to be used with any normal steering wheel. It's not the one with all the buttons on. I can't remember which one's called what now. But in any case, it's the one without the buttons. I didn't want that because I think it looked messy. And I just wanted it to be a steering wheel, a real steering wheel, attached to my DD1 and no other messing around. I've got a little, in shot, there's a little keyboard here. This is a full keyboard just fitted to my upright here that I can do all my configuration, start and stop races, you know, change options if I need to, all there. So I don't need anything on my steering wheel. So this might just be called the podium hub, actually, mightn't it? Universal hub and podium hub. Yeah, I think it's what it is. Podium hub adapter. Yeah, that's what it is. So it's a lovely clean setup without any of those buttons, but it does mean you can't use some of the features of the wheelbase directly, and you will need to do it using the software on the computer. But that's fine, because I don't need to dick around with stuff when I'm driving. Once it's all set up and tuned, that's all I care about. So I'm really pleased with this super clean look and the build quality. The podium hub, yeah, I'm pretty certain that is what it's called. I should know this shit. I'm a sim racing channel. The podium hub is equally well made as far as fit, finish, appearance and quality goes. And some reviewers complained about play in the steering wheel with this podium hub. I don't really have any play. So I don't know whether they didn't fit it properly, because what you're supposed to do, you won't be able to see this, I don't think, but there's a, oh, you might do, where my finger is there. There is a locking collar. And before you put your wheel on with your podium hub attached to it, you just nip that little collar up so it starts to gently compress. There's like a rubber surround, a rubber collar. You just start to compress the rubber collar slightly, and then you slot your quick release on, and then you just nip it up further still. If you don't do that, then there is some noticeable play. But if you fit it how I just described, I don't have any play to speak of. I mean, I could force it to move a little bit, I suppose, make it flex, but certainly not anything to bitch about in a review. And again, if you were to go out into your real life cars, grab your steering wheel and do that, you'll make them flex, and you'll find a little bit of play in your steering column there too. So certainly no issues with that. One of the other things I noticed straight away when using this, compared to the belt-driven or gear-driven wheelbases, is just how smooth this rotates. You know, it's just, that is a night and day difference, the smoothness. It's just incredible. Again, other reviewers say you can feel like a little bit of cogging or notchiness. And if you take two fingers, very lightly hold the wheel and just move it, then yeah, you can just about. But this is with it powered off. With it powered on, you can't feel that, or at least I can't. And if you actually move it how you would genuinely move it, you know, I'm using two fingers to do this, I'm really concentrating to try and feel that sort of notchiness. I'm guessing it's from where the magnets are spaced around the outside of the motor, if it's that type of motor, and as it goes from one magnet to the other, as they pass by, they'll kind of pull themselves. Again, when it's powered up, you don't feel that, or at least I don't. And more importantly, when you're actually using it, look, there's no notchiness there. It's smooth as silk. Certainly nothing to worry about. If you can hear my phone ringing in the background, you can hear my phone ringing in the background. I should have turned it off. So impression to smoothness, super, super smooth compared to gear-driven or belt-driven wheels. That's a big step up. And then it bolted straight on to my GT Omega Prime wheel plate here, a wheel deck. I have actually got the Fanatec wheel deck coming, specific one for this, and it should be here sometime this month. GT Omega is sending me over pretty much all the accessories for this cockpit so I can review them and try them all out. So we will try that, but there's no, again, I see another review of the Prime from somebody the other day, and he's got his wheel and his lever in it like this, and he's making this wheel deck flex. Now, again, it's like, I mean, I'm doing it here. My wheel deck is not flexing. What I'm making flex here is the shaft coming out of the motor into the quick release. The wheel deck does not, how he got his wheel deck to flex, I will never know, because I'm a fairly strong guy, and like, yes, I can force stuff. I don't need to bend my wheel. Anyway, that was a bit of a weird one to see, but I have got the Fanatec one coming, so we'll see how that compares. But for anyone that may have seen that review and is worried about it, there's nothing to worry about. It doesn't flex under normal use. Barry at the Sim Racing Garage reviewed his cockpit as well. He said the same thing. It's tried and tested you know, wheelbase. It doesn't flex in use, but we're getting sidetracked now. Yeah, so really smooth in operation. Love the screen, the weight, the industrial feel and build quality is excellent. Same goes for the Podium hub, quick release. It is solid. There isn't any flex that you notice or play in use. Absolutely fine. It installed just fine with the drivers. Quick to configure. And then I set my, you know, I tuned it, of course, in Dirt Rally, which is mostly what I play. That was no problem either. And so once I got driving, the first thing, of course, I noticed was the extreme amount of torque that is available, you know, compared to belt-driven or gear-driven counterparts. It is a huge difference, and this is, of course, fully expected. Now, we don't need, even like this is a 20 Newton meter peak torque motor, then they do a 25, and of course some other wheel manufacturers do up to 30 or 35. In the real world, if you're driving a car with no power steering and it has a quick rack and some quite sticky tyres and you're going around a hard corner, I believe they've measured up to about 30 Newton meters of torque at the steering wheel. Now, when as sim racers, unless you specifically want to simulate a car with no power steering and a quick rack and some sticky tyres going around a really sharp corner, we will never, ever, ever need a motor that has that much torque available. This has 20 Newton meters, and having the little graph up on the display to show me how much torque it's actually producing, I've not got anywhere near that 20 Newton meter figure, and I wouldn't do, because in Dirt Rally I'm using mostly cars with power steering, you know, and power steering in race cars is often tunable, and they want the driver to be able to drive to his best. So they don't make it horribly heavy and difficult to use. They make it so it's a comfortable level, but without dampening out, you know, the details from the road. So when we configure our direct drive wheels, or at least when I have done, I've configured this to feel like a car with power steering, but without so much assistance that I'm losing detail in the road. So, you know, if you go out, if you've got maybe a, I don't know, I used to have a BMW Z4 as an example of a sports car, for example, on the road. That has electric power steering, which is essentially a motor that operates the steering rack. You know, it feels very, this is interesting actually, this feels very similar to what my old Z4 steering used to feel like. I guess maybe it's because that does operate an electric motor, you know, and that's what you're acting upon as well. So it feels a lot more realistic than what, again, belt-driven and gear-driven wheelbases do. So it feels more realistic. It feels a lot smoother. There's loads more torque available. Not that we should ever really need to choose to use all that torque, because we'd have a hell of a hard time, you know, driving around using 20 Newton meters or 30 Newton meters of torque every time we came to a bend. It would be horrific. But what comes with that torque, of course, is responsiveness. And detail. They kind of go hand in hand. From what I've seen, you won't get a low torque wheelbase, maybe an 8 Newton meter wheelbase, that has the same response and level of detail as a 20 Newton meter wheelbase. So they go hand in hand. And what we really want it for, in my opinion, is the detail and the responsiveness rather than the power. I don't want, you know, I could configure this wheel to rip it out my hand if I hit a pothole or a bank in game. But why would I want to do that? And first of all, it's not realistic. And secondly, it's just over the top. But no, the level of detail, again, and the responsiveness is definitely a level up from belt-driven and gear-driven wheels. So they're really my first impressions. Great build quality, easy to install, great packaging, really, really smooth. No noticeable play in the steering wheel unless you go mental and try and bend it like a bell end. A great experience, loads of torque, loads of extra detail, and definitely a big step up in feel and performance from the cheaper belt-driven and gear-driven wheelbases. I will do a proper review where I have this off and we do some close-ups and I show you everything about it over on the desk once I've had it for a little bit longer and I really know the ins and outs of it and I've fine-tuned it to how I like it, and, you know, and tried it in plenty of different cars and a few different sims as well. One thing I will say though, as a first impression, everyone's going to be wondering, is it worth all that extra money? And I always wondered this, over a high-end belt-driven wheelbase like a Thrustmaster TSPC or one of the Fanatec offerings, both of which are good wheelbases. And this is a question that's a little bit difficult to answer because worth to some people is one value, whereas to other people, it's a very different value. So we might say spend £700 on a Fanatec belt-driven wheelbase and wheel. And then to step up to this is another, well, it's literally double, 1,400 quid plus the steering wheel, so about £1,600. To some people, that extra 800 notes is not a lot of money. But to other people, they've spent every penny they can on their £700 belt-driven setup, and so to spend another 800 is almost unreachable. So it's a little bit subjective. But what I will say is, you do not get, I don't think you get double the value by a long way. Yes, there's more torque. Yes, there's a bit more detail, a bit more responsiveness. Yes, the overall feeling is much more realistic and it's nicer. But is it worth another £800? Probably not. Unless you're really into your sim racing and you just don't care. You've got loads of money. Or like me, you sell a few things to pay for it and you have a sim racing channel and it's kind of important to progress and get a feel for all parts of the wheelbase spectrum, so to speak. But it's, you know, first impressions, it's a lot better, it's a lot nicer in every way. It's also a lot more money. So we'll leave that there, I think, for the time being, and perhaps talk about it a bit more in my final review. This first impression video is probably already ran on too long. What are we looking at? 16.5 minutes. Anyway, that's my first impression from being sat here in the seat and having a little play. I'll see you all soon, and as always, take it easy.